The village of Marrow Glen lay shrouded in fog more nights than not, a place where silence clung to the cottages like moss to stone. Generations of farmers and woodcutters had eked out their lives at the edge of the forest, but no one dared go too far beneath the twisted boughs. Beyond a certain point, the ground dipped sharply into a gully known as Black Hollow, and everyone knew what had once lived there, and perhaps still did. The stories were old, too old to tell where truth ended and legend began. They spoke of a woman who had not been born but had crawled from the earth one autumn night, pale as a root pulled from the soil, her eyes black as obsidian. She lived alone in the hollow, in a crooked house of timber and mud, surrounded by bones of animals strung like ornaments. They said she could command storms with the movement of her hands, could rot grain in the fields by whispering to it, could summon the dead from their shallow graves. The people called her a witch, and when the sickness came that year, when cattle died foaming at the mouth and children wasted in their beds, they swore she had cursed them. Men from the village once gathered torches and blades, swearing to rid themselves of her. But only 2 returned, both half-mad, muttering incoherently. One drowned himself in the river not long after, the other wasted away, refusing food until his ribs jutted through his skin. Since then, the witch's name was spoken only in hushed tones, and only when the fog rolled down from the hollow like a living thing. The forest was left untouched, and a pact of silence settled across Marrow Glen. But silence never lasts forever. Years passed, then decades. The witch was not seen again, though the hollow remained barren, its trees twisted into claw-like shapes that bore no leaves even in summer. Then came the harvest, when the skies turned copper and the earth shuddered with unseasonable frost. The fields gave nothing. Livestock sickened once more. At night, pale lights were seen flickering between the trees, and dogs howled without cause. Once again, eyes turned toward the hollow. It was said that a group of woodcutters, desperate for firewood despite the warnings, had strayed too close. They returned with wild tales of bones rising from the soil, of whispers that slithered into their ears though no lips spoke them, of a house that should not have stood after all these years but did, its roof sagging and its door yawning open as if waiting. The stories spread. Fear thickened. Some families fled Marrow Glen under the cover of night, wagons rattling away down muddy roads. But many remained, bound by land and blood, unwilling or unable to leave. Those who stayed could not ignore the signs that followed. Scratches appeared on cottage doors each dawn, as though long nails had scraped across the wood. Chickens were found headless, their bodies stacked in patterns that no beast could have arranged. Smoke rose from the hollow, though no one had seen fire lit there for generations. And then the dreams began. At first, a few villagers muttered of them, dreams of the forest bending in unnatural ways, of shadows moving though no sun or moon cast them, of a tall, crooked woman watching from the trees. Her presence was felt more than seen, her face always obscured, though her black eyes shone like twin embers. As nights went on, more spoke of such visions, until it became clear that nearly everyone in Marrow Glen dreamed of the same figure. The oldest woman in the village, bent with age and half-blind, recalled the tales from her grandmother's lips. The witch, she said, did not age as others did. She fed upon fear, upon despair, upon the marrow of the living. When the village was weakest, when its people were too afraid to fight, that was when she returned to feed again. No one dared enter the forest after that. Doors were barred, candles left burning through the night. Yet it made no difference. The witch had no need to cross thresholds when she could seep through cracks in the mind. The dreams grew worse. They became not dreams but visions, felt even in waking hours. People swore they smelled earth rotting beneath their floorboards, heard dripping water in their walls, though the wood was dry, felt unseen fingers tugging at their hair. A shepherd went mad and clawed out his eyes, screaming that he saw her standing behind every sheep, whispering into their ears. A mother smothered her infant to silence its cries, claiming the child's mouth had twisted into a smile not its own. By winter, snow fell in thick curtains, but the hollow never turned white. Its soil remained black, steaming faintly even in the bitter cold. A sound like breathing was heard there by hunters who passed too near, slow, steady, inhuman. Some believed the witch herself was no longer flesh, but the hollow incarnate, the forest's own hatred given form. If so, she could never truly be destroyed, only endured. Yet others whispered that she could be appeased, that sacrifices might still her hunger. Chickens and goats began to vanish from pens, taken not by wild beasts, but by human hands. Soon it was not animals alone. A child disappeared one night, then another. No one asked too loudly where they had gone. Better not to know. And still the witch came closer. One evening, a girl of 15 wandered into the snow and was found frozen at the forest's edge, her eyes black and her mouth packed with soil. Soon after, the church bell rang of its own accord, its rusted tongue swinging though no hand touched the rope. The priest who went to investigate never returned, and the church doors warped as though from heat, though no fire burned. The villagers no longer dreamed. They did not sleep. When they closed their eyes, they felt her gaze upon them. One by one, houses stood empty, doors gaping wide, their hearths long cold. Those who remained spoke little, moved little, barely lived at all. By the thaw of spring, Marrow Glen was a husk of itself. The fields lay bare, livestock gone, cottages half collapsed. Crows circled endlessly overhead, but no songs of children echoed, no laughter, no voices, only silence thick and absolute. At the center of Black Hollow, the crooked house still stood. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, though no one remained alive to see it. Bones hung from its eaves, rattling in the breeze, marking each life the witch had consumed. Inside, the shadows shifted, though no fire burned, and the floor was covered in soil damp with blood. The witch waited there, her black eyes gleaming in the dark, patient as stone. She had no need to leave her hollow. Sooner or later, fear itself would draw the living to her, as it always had, as it always would. And so the hollow grew, swallowing the forest inch by inch, the land rotting outward like a spreading wound. Travelers who passed near the valley told of silence so heavy it felt like being buried alive, of skeletal trees pointing skyward like broken fingers, of shapes moving in the mist that were not men. They hurried on, whispering never to stop there, never to drink the water, never to look too long into the shadows. Yet the witch waited, patient and eternal, knowing that hunger has no end and terror has no boundary. She was the hollow, and the hollow was endless,